Hey, how you guys doing? So this is Neil from masterpaintnow.com bringing you another free art lesson. I'm one of the top art instructors on Udemy with over 30,000 happy students, all growing and learning. So grow with us. All right, let's get started.
All right, so in this lesson here, I'm going to show you guys how I animate properly birds, owls, etc. Before I go through the lesson here, I wanted to show you the bird actually flying here. It's just a really quick sketch. It's not even like a bird, it's more like a structure of a bird, but it shows you what's necessary to make bird flight. But before we do that, I applied these same principles to a proper owl flight here, which I did use reference for, and unfortunately, the reference was actually in slow motion. But I really just wanted to see like how the owl kind of turned. I'm going to play that for you real quick. I wanted to see how the owl kind of turned in the air with its body as it moves toward you. And that's where the reference came in handy for. But the wing flight is what I'm going to teach you now. It's the same. I want to learn it from the front view, but the way that the wings move, the most important frames, and I'll show that too. I think I show at the end here. There we go. So here we have the downstroke. Now these are the main things you like absolutely. Now you can probably get rid of maybe because you always need I think you need for pretty much any type of movement to look smooth and good, you need 8 frames in my opinion. You can get away with some things with less than that, but 8 frames is pretty like for a good run animation. 8 frames is really good. Anyway, so you could probably take out, you definitely need this one and this one. So you need the first one, these extremes. So you need those for sure. You need this in between here, the middle one. I would say definitely these are the two you can probably get rid of, and it would still look presentable. It's not. I mean, even with these, you'll see it looks pretty choppy. And so I recommend adding at least, and I'll show the timing in this video, but adding another one here and here, down here and down here, because that's where it's gonna be the slowest, and maybe even one right in here somewhere. And that would add it. And we're doing on 12s. So yeah, but things that move and fly, they do look better on ones, like faster moving things, like so wings that are moving faster, look better on ones. But you have to do twice as many drawings, but you can probably, maybe not twice as many, but because of the timing. Anyway, here's another animation I'm actually working on right now. She's actually going it's a original character. She's actually going to be in a before we get into this tutorial. She's actually going to be in a skirt, so I just have the pants there so I know the way I want her to move, the way I want the hips to move, make sure I get the hip movement right. Once I have all that down, then I will go ahead and add all her clothes. She's going to have a skirt, she's probably going to have these big ponytails. That's how the character, that's how the character looks. Anyway, so stay tuned for that. I'll show that when it's finished, and maybe I'll talk some tips how it's done. It's very difficult. Actually, this dance sequence has been very hard. Definitely had at first I tried to do it from imagination, but no, I need to look up references because it's just difficult. And so it's basically like a hip roll, like you see in belly dancing and things like that. And yeah, definitely not easy. I want to change a lot of things too, like the timing of the breasts and things like that. So it's still have a lot of work to go. And anyway, so let's go ahead and get on with this tutorial. So the first thing is I show here is that where the body is going to go up and down. So a lot of people forget that when they animate a bird. I'll go and let this play while I'm talking. A lot of people forget when they're animating a bird that the body bobs up and down a little bit. So when it has its wings stretched upwards, is this playing? When it has its wings stretched upwards and it's going to start pushing the air down with its wings, its body is going to go up, right? Because it's lifting itself. It's like it's pushing itself up in the air, and so its body actually goes up just a little bit. It's really hard to see this in videos oftentimes because the bird's in the middle of flight and the background kind of makes it hard to see that happening because the background's moving as well. But if you go frame by frame and find a good reference, you can see that the head or the whole entire body goes up and down. And sometimes if it's from a side view, it even goes back a little bit. Like owls seem to push themselves back more than up and down. And that might be, that's partly why I think they're more silent when they fly. There was a recent experiment I saw with owls, and it's pretty cool. Anyway, so now I showed you those 5 frames, the five frames we're going to draw up and the 5 frames we're going to draw down. 10 frames total, and you're going to see it actually looks pretty smooth just with those 10 frames on 12s. But that is 2 frames a second if you want to do it like that. So on 2s, I guess, however you want to call it. Now what's important here is that, think about the wing structure. So I want to show a little bit of that back. These are the big feathers. So I'm showing those big feathers now. So with this first frame, I want to show that those feathers are being pushed up. As it's beginning to pull this is the frame where it's going to start pulling its wings down. Now notice, to save time here really fast for this sketch, I went ahead and copied and pasted it, and notice it puts a regular layer, not a video layer. That's fine because you can merge it down to the video layer. And then so you just copy paste it, flip it horizontally, and then you have to actually grab this layer only, the purple layer, and then grab the drawing and move it right over on top, and then go to layer and merge down, and it'll merge into your video layer. People used to, some people still do because they don't know about video layers yet. They still animate with these purple layers, but I recommend using video layers. They're really cool because you can just add in frames, as you're going to see me do here. As you go along, you literally just click on the next frame and then start drawing it, and that becomes your new frame. If you need to ever add a frame in between, you just go where you need it, hit the cut button, and then after that go to layer and add a new blank layer. I have it set to Control-Alt-V, and it adds a new blank layer, and then you can add that in between in there. Or you can just cut it and then go to move this over, move the one on the right over one, and then add, because otherwise it'll go into that. Anyway, then you just say add a, I think it's add a blank layer. After you add a blank layer, you won't see it. You have to grab the end of it and stretch it, and then now you have that blank layer you can draw on to add a layer in between. So it's really cool. I recommend if you do your keys to do keys on individual layers. You can actually stack all of these on the same layer. So you make individual ones of these, and you can just stretch it like you just hit. I have mine set to Control-Alt-B, makes a new one. Sorry, that's Control-Alt-V. Control-Alt-B is to copy the previous frame. Anyway, so that's how I have it set for shortcuts. Anyway, it just comes handy, and then you can add a few of these things, or you can just add your keys right on this video layer, and then just cut it up and then add in between them. Anyway, so notice I kept this pretty close together. So because I wanted to see if it would work on 10s. Well, not 10s, on 2s, but only 10 frames. I wanted to see if I can get a flight animation to work with just 10 frames. And I think it works pretty good, but definitely I think it can use at least 2 more frames. That is 1 more up here, 1 more down here, and that would smooth out that push off and take off. It basically, it's easing in and easing out, and that's where the wings naturally slow down in flight anyway. And then maybe even 1 more right as the wing starts to curve up right here more, because it's like, as they're really trying to pull that wing up, it seems like the birds kind of slow down just a little bit right there, and that might be another one. So maybe 3 more frames. From a front view like this, if it's a complete front view, copy and pasting the wings is probably not something you want to do. You might copy and paste it and then just as a guide, and then just kind of sketch over that. I think you still want a little bit of difference between the left and right wings. You don't want it perfectly symmetrical unless you're going for some sort of graphic design type animation or something like that. I mean, if it's far in the distance, it's not a big deal. It's just a background object, and then you can do a looping animation of the front view, because if it's going to stay in front view, then just loop the animation. Then you can tween it, so you can have it grow from small to big, so it's kind of coming toward you. Yeah, typically a bird's not going to stay in front view for very long, so unless it kind of flies up and off the screen or something in the background. But other than that, you're probably going to want to have it turn at some point, and then in which case you're going to want to look at how a bird looks, whatever bird is you're doing. How does that bird look like from different angles? You might want to look at some references for that. I don't do a lot of animals, so if I like if I'm going to draw a panther or something like that, I can draw a panther side view, front view, most of the major views. But if I'm going to draw it like doing a turn circle or something, I need to look at some references of how it's going to look in all those different angles. But yeah, so human being I got down pretty good. I can pretty much draw a human being from any angle from my imagination, but I haven't drawn a bunch of panthers. And so anyway, so now I'm just showing here that, and I'm gonna forward here in just a second. I'm showing here that as the wing is going down, these outer feathers, these are the loosest feathers, that tend to bend the most. So, and these ones are harder together, and they're closer to the bird's arm structure. That is, a bird actually has an elbow and that kind of stuff. Not quite as many bones as like a bat has. A bat pretty much has an entire, not pretty much, a bat does have an entire arm. Every bone that we have in our arm, a bat has in its arm. It just, they're just more stretched out, like its fingers are very long. It's, it's ulna and, what is that, your, oh my God, I forgot. I teach this, and I just don't remember your ulna and your, what's in the forearm? I can't remember the name of the other one now. It starts with like an R. I don't know why I can't remember it. Anyway, those two bones in your forearm, they have those. They're just elongated. But yeah, if you ever look at a bat skeleton, you'll see they have all the same bones in their arm. Birds, I don't think they have like fingers and all that kind of stuff. I think it's been replaced with feathers, but they still have like the beginning part of an arm with an elbow and everything. Anyway, and that's what this part is right here, here and here. So I always draw those parts in first. That's the main structure that all the feathers are coming off of. And so as the wings go down, we're going to see that these outer feathers go up. And so the outside of the wing, this outside part, that's the part you want to scoop up as the wings are going down from wind resistance. And this part here is scooping the wind, and those outer feathers are just kind of being pushed upward. And then anyways, let's go ahead and forward this here, and you'll see the next one I'm going to draw and copy and paste. And then I like to go back and forth and check to make sure everything's working right. Now here I wanted to show you can actually, I don't know if I already did this already, when you change onion skin. So you go to skins, onion skin settings, and then instead of multiply, choose, I think it's difference. And I kind of like this sometimes, being able to see my previous drawing in white and now I'm drawing in black. It just kind of makes it easier to see what I'm doing. Unfortunately, you can't choose your own colors in Photoshop, at least not that I know of. There might be something in edit preferences maybe. I haven't looked at that yet. But because I actually bought TV Paint and I missed, in order to, it's weird, it's the only software I've seen where in order to use it, so hold on a second, let me go to pause real quick. So to use it, they have to send you this, like basically, they call it a dongle, but it's basically a USB. And you have to have that USB plugged into one of the USB ports when you're using the software. If it's not plugged in, the software won't work. Kind of cool for security, but that's still hackable, so I don't understand why they make it more difficult for you. Like I bought it and I was like, yay, I'm going to get to use it like right now. I've been watching Aaron Blaise, animator from Disney, for like 20 years. And I really, he uses that software, and I was like, wow, that software looks awesome. And because I wasn't gonna, get like Toon Bloom or something like that. I had that before, and I used to use Flash back in the day. Anyway, so right now I have Photoshop, and I also have Clip Studio Paint. That has a really good animation thing, and it's good. It's just a little bit easier, I think, maybe than Photoshop for some things. But anyway, Photoshop is cool for animation only because there's so much stuff you can do. But you can always do most everything in another program and then import that as a video file into Photoshop, and then you can add things like cool lighting effects and things like that. So anyway, so in this down position, this is really important that you have this down position. Now if you want, you can have one frame, like watch, where it's going to flip like that, where it flips the other way, and that's really important here. I think these two, that's why in those 5 frames I showed you, that it's important you have these 2 frames right here, this frame and this frame, and they're really close together. And that shows the reversal, the flip reversal. This flip reversal is important, I think, as important to bird flight or any type of thing with wings pretty much that flies, mainly birds. Not all birds do it like that, but most big birds. Owls are a little different. They tend not to flap their wings as much, but when they're taken off, they do flap them, but they still don't flap them as much, and they're much more quieter. They don't create nearly as much wind. They glide more, and they don't flap their wings as much, and it's really cool. That's why they're so silent when they fly. But this, for most birds, this flip right here is super important, and to me it's as important as when I'm drawing a walk cycle as the passing frame. And that's where the legs cross each other, and you can see one leg crossing behind the other leg, or one leg crossing in front of the other leg. It's always important is that the legs are crossing each other. Maybe I should actually show that really quick, because it's so important, I think. Maybe I'll show it at the end of this video anyway. So this is like that passing moment. And so the wings flipping like this from the feathers going out to the feathers going in really sells that flight. And also at the top and bottom. So when the wings are at their height up here, same thing. See how right now the feathers are this way. We're gonna have another one where the feathers are the other way, which I show you at the end here. So now we have those frames in there. It's just a really cool pose too for a bird. And one thing I learned in general over time, a little bit from Aaron Blaze. I'm not sure if that's how he says his last name, but also from the forget the guy's name right now, the animator that made the Animator's Survival Kit. And I've actually never actually gone through the book, but I bought his years ago. I bought his course, which was like $900. It's kind of an insane price. I think it's worth it, but you might feel like it wasn't worth it after you watch it. You're like, what, that's what I get for $900? But it really goes through everything, the fundamentals that you need to know, and then you can build upon all that. I do wish for that amount of money that there was more like specific examples of things like, like for example, bird flight and things like that. Anyway, one of the things I've learned from that and a little bit from other animators is that you can get away. Like if I can actually turn this into a bird animation, especially if it's farther away and not very close to the camera in the shot. And that is, you can actually go with drawing feathers. It's just like lines like this. You don't have to actually draw in each feather and everything. Maybe for like some of the keyframes, especially if the bird's closer, for like some of the keyframes, you might do some nice drawings. But for all the in-betweens and stuff, you can just get away with like really scribbly lines. And with the owl, you saw the owl flight. That's all scribble. That's a sketch. It's not like an actual finished piece. But you can really get away with a lot with fast-moving objects. You can, he was talking about. He was really cool how he did a hummingbird. And he never even drew wings. He literally just drew like scribble marks, like light scribble marks where the wings are in their kind of outline shape, and just kind of had them vibrate and move. And it was really cool. And it looked like when it showed the animation, it looked like a hummingbird's wings. It was cool. So this is a really important one too, where you're showing the wing coming up. So this part right here, the arm part, and before it bends, as it comes up, and I could have probably maybe I should have bent it there, but whatever. As it comes up, it's like it's bending its elbow, and it wants the least amount of wind resistance when the wing is coming up, and so it bends its wings so that they're kind of facing downward. But also this end part here, it's going to go down anyways because of the wind force on these outer feathers. But I think this is a really important one too. It's also a really nice pose. This is one you might want to spend more time adding some cool details to. And your eye is going to see those few frames that have those details to them, and the ones that just have lines for feathers and stuff, it's going to just kind of, it's going to kind of ignore that, and it's going to just kind of look like really smooth. But that's true with all animation. The in-between stuff, you can really get away with a lot. You can just almost like scribble something as long as it, it looks the same. It's crazy. Like with the run, you can almost get away with just not even drawing the leg all the way, as long as it has the right colors and everything. Anyway, it's really cool. So this you're showing both the underside of the wing and the outside of the wing. So this is the under feathers and these are the top feathers. And so you're showing that curl of the wing as it's coming up. Boom. I show it just back and forth a few times. The next one here, similar but not quite as extreme. You're seeing the under feathers and then the top feathers. And now I'm showing the spacing. So this part here, I think this is important. So basically we're keeping the frames close together here and up here, further apart in the center. Now I think to make this smoother, I would add one more frame here, and that's going to make that even a little bit slower, make it ease in, ease out, and maybe add one more frame in between these two here. And then that would have that nice flow to it. Maybe even one here, and keep those the same. So kind of evenly space these four, and have these three and these three close together. So then be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames total. Would that be right? Yeah, instead of 5. I don't know why I was saying 10 before. I say 10 before, huh? We're actually doing this with only... No, never mind. Sorry. That would be 20 total, or close, or 19, whatever. or no, I think it'll still be 20. No, 19, I think. So anyway, sorry. I'm thinking of just the downstroke. So the downstroke right now is just 5 frames, and the upstroke is 5 frames. But we want to make it to where the downstroke would be like 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, and then the up would be maybe you can probably do 10 up too, because you have that last. Yeah, maybe it would be 10 up and 10 down. Anyway, and that would look a lot smoother. But or at least just add a couple frames here and here, like one here, and then maybe one more in the middle, and separate those 3. So then you would have 9 frames, I guess. Anyway, that'd look nice too. All right, let's go ahead and continue here. And now I'm still showing a little bit of those back feathers. And this all depends on the angle that you're viewing the bird from, the front view as well. I mean, are you seeing the bird? If it's more of a top view, you're going to see a lot more of these top feathers and less of the bottom feathers, and so forth. So you just got to know what angle you're viewing the bird at. And you can actually, you can have the bird kind of swoop down and then come up. That is, as it's swooping down, you see all of its top feathers, and as it swoops up toward us and goes back up in the air, you see all of its bottom feathers. And that'd be kind of a cool animation, like a dive down and back up, like a bomb dive and then shoots back up in the air. It'd be cool for like an angel or something animation. So now I almost made the mistake of going the same way, and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I gotta go the opposite way. So here I'm just showing those last little feathers kind of separating right before it pulls its wings down, and then those are gonna be shot back up the other way. But they're really loose still, because when the wings are coming up, they're loose, and then you have that flip over. So when it flips over to the original, back to the original, let's see, trying to catch it anyway. I think I actually show it animated. Hold on, let me see. When it flips back over to the original frame, that's the flip right there, that first frame. So you'll see the flop. So that's at 29 frames per second. It's too fast. You just click on this little icon right here. You can change the speed. I forgot to change it to 12s. That's the only thing that sucks about Photoshop. If you accidentally start at 1 speed, there we go. I just swapped it to 50% slower. But yeah, if you start at an accident, but it's default at 29 frames. And if you start at default at 29 frames, and then you want to after you do a bunch of frames and you draw them and you want to reduce it, you're going to lose a lot of your frames. It's kind of sucks. So, or actually maybe it doesn't. Maybe if you just stretch it. Anyway, all I know is if you do it this way, timing, and then just turn it down by 50%, whatever, and around there, and then just get it to the speed you want it, and then stretch this so you can see the extra frames it adds. That's the best way to do it, and then you can go ahead and save those out. But then it kind of ruins the drawings you did and how you. Anyway, just try to work on the exact timing that you're going to want. You can work on 24 all the time, and just add 2s if you want it to be 12 frames a second. And yeah, anyways, it's not that hard. You just after you draw a frame, you just hit, instead of always going to layer, video layer, copy that, whatever, copy the video layer, you can just go into your shortcuts and set the shortcut for that. And I have mine again to Control-Alt-B, so I can just draw a frame, Control-Alt-B, and it'll copy that frame right away. And then I'll have 2 copies of that frame. That's the only thing. Like that's a lot slower in this program than other programs. Like Flash, you can just boom, quickly copy and paste that frame, and now you have 2 frames. What I like about TV Paint is you can just literally just drag it, and you can extend that whatever you draw, you can grab it and extend it for how many frames you want. You want to hold it for 5 frames, boom, it's there. It's held for 5 frames, and you can go ahead and draw everything, and then go back. Like you can draw this frame, that frame, and have them separated, and then go back and you can drag and I changed my mind. I only want this one held for 2 frames instead of 3 frames. Go back on this one and move it. You can swap them around. It makes it just really easy, as if you're working, with hand animation on paper, and just makes it much faster. That's why I bought the software. It's expensive though. Even the standard edition, I think in American money was like $530, so it's pretty expensive. And I was kind of really disappointed that I had to wait for something to come in the mail in order to use the software. They don't get, the keys don't work. Like they won't work unless you have that USB port plugged in. So I bought the software, and I'm like, now I'm waiting for days and days just to use the software. I'm like, I wanted to use it right when I bought it. and that was really a bummer. Like I never seen a software that you can't use right after you buy it. Like they should at least make it to where it's a trial, like a 1-week trial or a 2-week trial that will work with the code, and then will stop working, after that, unless you have your dongle. But I guess they're, security, whatever. Right. So right there, and that I just realized how that I really stretched those wings out. They shouldn't have stretched out that far, but that's all right. It still looks good. That frame to that frame is important. To have that switch, it flips the wings around. And I just show where to add frames here very quickly. I was just kind of just going through, just quickly showing what I talked about already, just showing where to add the frames to make it smoother if you want to smooth it out. And like I said, again, you really only have to add to this animation. You really only, like I said, you only have to add an extra frame here, here, and then maybe one more extra here, and have these equally spaced. So have one here, one here, and one here, and have them equally spaced, and have these ones close together, these three, and that would slow in and out. I think it would look really nice. Okay, that's pretty much it. So that's the basics of what I think about. So in other words, you can have one more here and one more here, and that would be 3 on the top and bottom, and then just have, for this middle one, just have one more here. I don't know why I drew it the other way with more than one. Yeah, because I only have one there. And then just have one more in the center, or maybe 3 in the center, but spaced evenly apart, and these ones spaced close together. And that would have a nice movement to it. You might even be able to go with just 2 here, 3 here, and 3 here. And you can just mess around with the timing and how many frames you need. I always try to draw the least amount as possible because I don't do this for a living. I teach how to draw for a living, so I make a really, really good living doing that. So animation to me is just something I do for fun. And basically I started doing it because I make my own video games. I had come out with a few video games, one on Xbox, it was a 2D game, and actually a couple on Xbox 360, and then one on Android phone called Magic vs. Monsters. That one's pretty cool. And so I had to learn to animate because I wanted to do my own drawings and animations for my video games. And with video games, you really want to use the least amount of frames possible so that everything runs nice and smooth. Especially 2D games they're quite a hog, because especially if the sprites are big. Anyway, so for me, animations is something I do for fun, and a lot of the stuff I just do for practice and stuff. For that way, if but I don't know, I might one day make a little short film or something. You never know. And oh yeah, I did a little. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. And then you just apply these principles to movement, and the same principles I'm applying to this owl. I just did a quick tween for the background. Just really, this is really sketchy just to see if it works. I'm like, okay, cool, I think that works. And then, if I wanted to continue this animation, I can go ahead and start drawing the actual real frames over these sketches, and then make it all work. But I want to make sure that the body turn and the way that the wings, and I want to apply those basic principles. And sure, I guess I could have just taken the video itself and drew all those frames that are in the video, and that would look good. The problem is you're going to be drawing a lot of frames, and you're going to be there for yeah, it's crazy. Even if you were to take that video and somehow try to reduce it to 24 frames, I think Photoshop might be able to do that. Even if you do that, though, you're still drawing 24 frames of actual full drawing of an owl. That's a lot of drawing to do. Like, just the sketch doesn't take you a while. Then you have to go through and draw your final drawings on top of that, and you have to color it and everything. So yeah, that's insane. So instead, put the body on 2s, and then put the wings maybe on 1s if you need to, because they are moving faster. But they actually look pretty good on 2s, and you can actually get away with only having a few frames on 1s and the rest on 2s. That is, maybe as it's going toward the top and the bottom, you can put those on 1s and then have the rest on 2s, and that works good. And that's pretty much what I did. I only did a few on 1s, everything else was on 2s, and I think it looks pretty smooth. But it's a good test. And but what's important when you're looking at a video, and when this video is a slow-mo video, and so that's another problem. If you were to try to draw frame for frame what you see, and then you're going to get a slow motion, a slow flying owl. That's not what I wanted. I wanted an owl like this that's flying in real time. And yeah, so you have to know these principles I just taught about the wings. So you have to know what frames are absolutely necessary, that you need those necessary frames. And again, the most important necessary frames here is this one and this one and this one, this one. These extreme frames at the top and bottom, of the going down and going up. You need that transition between these two frames here and these two frames here. Without those two transitions, it's really like trying to draw a walk or run a walk animation without your crossovers where the legs are crossing over each other. And that just looks really weird if those frames aren't there. And if you don't have these two frames there, it does look strange. It looks like the wings just kind of, I don't know, they don't look right. They don't snap right at the ends of the flight. And yeah, so I think those are super important to have. Like you need those frames in there. And then you need to know like how the wings transform as they're going up and how they look as they're going down, how these ends drag out and how these ones drag down when they're going up. All that's important to understand and know about wings, so that way what, if you're looking at a reference, it doesn't matter that it's in slow motion, because you know how to draw it in real motion. You're only looking at the overall shape of the thing. How does the overall thing change its form or shape? That is, how does the body change its shape when it starts turning sideways and coming toward you? How do the wings change their shape when they're turning sideways and coming toward you? What parts can you see and not see? Like for example, here, what part of the wing can I see that's being foreshortened, and what can I not see? And then as it's flying, as it flies more and starts turning, how much is foreshortened? I know that this wing's coming down toward me. You can work all that in your mind, but it takes quite a long time. And then here I go, okay, so I know that if the video shows me that this wing gets very thin and foreshortened, because we can't see it, and this one is more open, we can see the top feathers more, then I know what part of the animation I'm in. I know that the wings are going down. I know that these have to curve up a little bit at the end, and I know these have to curve up a little bit at the end, but because it's coming toward us, we don't really see it that much, or really at all. I guess I could have taken these last feathers and kind of curled them up just to like come out this way like that toward us, and that would kind of represent that. And like I said, it's a rough thing, so I still might go back and fix it up more. But yeah, so that's the things I think about when I'm applying. So like for example, if I have that frame right there, oops, oh, I just lost it, sorry. I should just open the file. That frame right there. So if I have that frame right there, I know that it's flapping its wings down, and so this still needs to come up. And so I'm going to put that in there. Even if it's not in the reference, I'm still going to put it in there because I know that that's what looks good. Anyway, so yeah, apply this right here, these frames. At least add these frames, the 5 up frames and the 5 down stroke frames, with the down flap, whatever you want to call it. Start with those 10 frames for any type of flying thing, whether it's sideways or you just got to figure out how it looks from the angle you're drawing it at, but make sure the wings are doing these motions. I guarantee that will give you a good base for a nice flight, and then you can add some in-betweens here and here, see how that smooths it out. You might need one more in here so that just kind of smooths out that in-between, so it doesn't feel like it's, depends how much you want it to snap and how fast or slow the bird's flying. Obviously, you want the bird to fly slower, you need to add more frames. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for watching. Hey, if this has helped you at all, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Awesome, I appreciate that, thanks. And go ahead and share this video with all your friends. And if you have any questions, leave in the comment and I'll get to you as soon as possible, which is usually, within a day. All right. Keep on drawing. Practice, practice, practice.